Welcome to the Counselling Tutor Podcast, the must-listen-to podcast for students of counselling and psychotherapy. Here are your hosts, Rory Lees-Oakes and Ken Kelly.
Hello and welcome to episode 63 of the Counselling Tutor Podcast with me, Rory Lees-Oakes. And with me, as always, my fellow traveller on the information superhighway, Mr. Ken Kelly. How's the information superhighway today?
Superhighway is awesome. It's good. I'm mindful that it is that time of year. I guess the festive season, the holiday season, as we may call it, that we're in at the moment. But I can't help notice, Rory, that your voice is very deep today. You do some good deep singing. Yes, it is a good octave and a half lower. I'd like to say that's because I'm practicing my singing, but I think the truth of the matter is that I've probably got a bit of a chest infection, and it's just reduced my voice. So all of you over there in podcast land, you're hearing me a little lower than I'm used to. Very manly indeed, and very, very gravelly there, Rory. And I notice you won't be able to see this because you're listening, but you're wearing a hat as well. And so I look out of my window, I see snow on our ground. It is that time in the UK. Our festive or holiday season over December is wintry and it's cold. And I guess you can tell us a little bit about your hat that you're wearing for all the listeners.
Yeah, well, yes, my hat is a G cap, so it's a green knitted cap. And it's my favourite hat. What can I say, Ken? Just me being weird again. It's just my favourite hat, and I'm wearing it, and that's the end of it. Really.
I like it, and I like that ownership of your favourite hat. And this is my favourite podcast, the Counselling Tutor Podcast. It's episode 63. We're going to be starting off by speaking about patterns of relating. And if you can hear something in the background that sounds like smashing ice on a roof, it is smashing ice on a roof as the hailstones hit in this UK winter blizzard. And Theory with Rory today, we're going to be looking at cyber trauma. I nearly said tribosoma there, Rory. I was spoonerizing it slightly. And I'm just mindful that this is quite a new theory, because we often speak about the theory with Rory, and it's often based back there and then. But this is pretty of the now, isn't it, cyber trauma?
It is. It's a brand new theory. In Theory with Rory, talk about historic theories. This is an evolving theory developed by, and I'll declare an interest, a friend of mine, Kath Nibbs, who I've heard speak about this a lot. And I think, and mark my words, Ken, and anybody else with a piece of paper and a pencil who's writing these down, that this is going to be something that becomes a huge piece of theory and will be something that therapists, practitioners and other professionals take note of in the coming years. It is a developing piece of theory as the internet develops, Ken. That's the key thing.
Looking forward to Theory with Rory today. And then we're going to be ending episode 63 of the Counselling Tutor Podcast by looking at our moral compass as trainers, as students, I should say, of counselling and psychotherapy. It sometimes happens that we come into training and our thoughts and our thought processes and what we do and what we interact with and what we think is appropriate and not appropriate kind of shifts and changes as we go through looking at ourselves, developing as people, personal development. We have, of course, a question that's come in from our Facebook group regarding that, so that's what we'll end with. But we kick off today, as we do often, with a question that has come in from our Facebook group. Now, here's the thing. If you're not a member of the Counselling Tutor Facebook group, stop what you're doing right now. Pull over your car at the side of the road, get on your mobile and join. No, don't. Drive safely. Don't do it while you're driving, of course. But really, come and join in the group. We've got over 14,000 like-minded individuals, students of counselling, tutors, qualified therapists, all hanging out there and talking about things of interest with regards to counselling and psychotherapy. Go to Facebook, just type in Counselling Tutor, you'll find us. But what is the question that we had today regarding those patterns of relating, Rory?
Well, and again, we're very grateful to our vibrant Facebook group, and in particular, one of the posters, Hayley McCauley. So hello to you, Hayley. And she says, is anyone able to help explain what it means by the term patterns of relating, please? I'm comparing and contrasting PCT and psychodynamic theories, and it says about looking at their patterns of relating. Does this mean what a counselling relationships look like from both perspectives? Any ideas? Many thanks in advance. So there you have it. And what I would say is patterns of relating is about how historically clients relate to themselves and others. And we're in the realm of attachment, really.
Yeah.
Work of Bowlby and all the people who followed Bowlby on. And, when you work with clients, you do realise just how early childhood experiences of caregivers and significant people in a child's life can impact on the adult you have in front of you. So in terms of patterns of relating, it can be that in psychodynamic terms, we talk about transference and counter-transference. We may talk about that in person-centered therapy. To be honest, it's certainly something in supervision. But in terms of PCT, it's conditions of worth and introjected values. So patterns of relating can be generated by what a child believes they are and what they've been told, which are introjected values and conditions of worth. But yeah, basically it comes down to attachment. And one plea, do not underestimate your own attachment style when you're working with clients, because that will have an impact in the therapy room. If your attachment style is avoidant, dismissive, then it might be that leaks out into the way you relate to your clients.
Definitely. I like how you've said that. And I'm thinking about self-concept. Our self-concept is how we see ourselves in the world and how we view the world as well. And we very often filter, well, not very often, we just do. We just filter everything we hear through our own self-concept. It's interesting. And if you think of us and a client as being two circles in the same room, we may think that if we say something, the client fully understands what we're saying. And when the client says something, we may think that we fully understand what it is that they're saying, when in reality, it is only a small slither right in the middle of common understanding that we have, because everything goes through a filter where we relate what we see, what we hear, how we interact with the world through that filter.
Yeah, absolutely. And also the misconceptions that come with having a filter in place. So it's amazing how communication, even the simplest thing, can be felt like it's miscommunicated, which is why therapists always say to their clients when they're reflecting back, is that correct? Is that how it is for you? And if the client says, yeah, fine. If the client says no, you say, tell me what I'm not understanding. And then the client has a chance to expand on that and make the meanings clear, because therapy is all about meanings. No matter which therapy, it's all about meanings, the client's meanings. So yeah, always ask, I would say, if your perception is correct.
100%. And how do we do that? We may ask a direct question to make sure that we understand it correctly. We can do so by a paraphrase, where we paraphrase our understanding of what the client has brought, or maybe in a summary of what the client has brought. And when we do a paraphrase or a summary, it's always an idea to say, well, that's kind of how I received that. How is that with you? And it gives the client an opportunity to maybe correct something where we have maybe perceived that incorrectly, and to set it right. And sometimes it's even an opportunity for the client to hear that back and go, actually, you know what, when I think about that, it's not really like this, it's like this. It allows them to change their filter as well and bring their new learning or where they may be on that subject. So I think it's a really good question. It's a good question. I think it shows itself multiple times in different ways in the therapy room.
Yeah, and I like what you say, Ken, about opportunity. Don't underestimate opportunity within the therapy room, because, there's a great phrase from a film called Vanilla Skies, which says every passing minute is another chance to turn it all around.
Yeah.
And, by using the opportunity to be able to clarify and be absolutely crystal clear that's what you've heard, you're really being of service to the client. And I would say use every opportunity to make sure that what you're hearing is exactly what the client's saying.
And it takes training and it takes practice. And that's why those skills, those simulated skills sessions that you do in your college and your university, if you're using them as chat sessions, you're really missing out, because that's the time that you dig into this stuff and learn how to look from somebody else's frame of reference, how to see things from someone else's perspective. But also when we look at our personal development group, that's where we can examine our own filter, and we can examine self and what have we got that may be those filters in how we relate to our clients. And it's equality, diversity. Do we hold any prejudices? And you only need to look back a few episodes of the Counselling Tutor Podcast, and you're going to hear all of those topics discussed. It all kind of becomes this ecosystem, doesn't it, Rory?
Yes, it's a homogenous
I like that.
grouping.
I like homogenous grouping. You've always got the words, Rory.
I know, you can't see it, but behind the camera, I've got Rory's big book of big words. I can look them up.
So there you have it. That is a great opening and a great question. So the patterns of relating within the therapeutic relationship. But moving now on to theory with Roma. I don't know what's wrong with me. It must be the holiday spirit coming in, Rory. The mind. The hat is putting me off. So it's theory with Rory looking at cyber trauma. Give us a bit of a taster. What can we expect? Cyber trauma. When you say cyber, I think of a robot, but it's not. It's the internet, isn't it?
Yeah, you've been watching too much Doctor Who.
I know.
And it's not Cybermen. It's cyber trauma. It's a term coined by researcher and psychotherapist Catherine Nibbs, northern-based researcher in the north of the UK, and she's really ploughing new ground. She's, on the many conversations I've had with Kath, she's a thought leader, and the hypothesis is it's a wide theory, but the basic hypothesis is because we have no control of the images that we send on the internet, all the people we meet, that people could become re-traumatized. And that, we've heard of people, being groomed online and sending inappropriate images and revenge porn. That trauma is the idea that, once it's gone, it's not yours anymore. Once that picture's gone, it could come back at any time. And there's also, I'm not discussed it, and I'll discuss it in the podcast because it's a big theory. But so she's doing sterling work on how devices are rewiring the brain.
I look forward to it. Let's dive straight in with theory with Rory.
Counselling Theory with Rory Lees-Oakes.
Unlike other theories that I've talked about on the Counselling Tutor podcast, this is relatively brand new. The term cyber trauma was coined by researcher Kath Nibbs. She's northern based. She's based in the north of England, just completed a double master's degree, and is a experienced and accredited therapist. She works with children, background's transactional analysis, and she develops a theory which is now becoming more and more accepted, more and more mainstream idea, and she called that theory cyber trauma. So if you're a child therapist or you're working in an area maybe of domestic abuse, this may be a really good section for you to listen to and take notes. What is cyber trauma? Well, Kath Nibbs describes it as a theoretical framework that covers trauma that occurs through, with, or from the medium of the online world, cyberspace. The trauma can be immediate, delayed, or retrospective. Trauma is both an event and a process. So, up until the internet was developed and became a mainstream product that people consumed, pictures were taken either with a stills camera or a cine camera. And the very fact that you used film and had to make a print from that, or if it was a cine camera, you used film and then projected it, was that its distribution was limited. It took a lot to make more negatives or more pictures. So any pictures that were taken, they couldn't be distributed very far and very wide. Contrast that with the event of the singer Madonna falling over a cloak at an awards ceremony that was televised, and within 8 minutes, those pictures were all over the world. But they weren't just the pictures of Madonna, they were ones with captions or funny memes or photoshopped heads, that type of thing. 8 minutes. So one of the lessons we can learn from the internet is that as soon as you send a picture onto it, you don't own it anymore. It's owned by whoever has it on their hard drives or whoever distributes it or puts it on their page. Now, yes, you can get stuff removed, but it is very, very hard. And I'm going to share with you a story I heard recently from a friend of mine talked to me about it. And it was about a woman who'd been married for a number of years who a friend said to her, I don't know if you've seen this, and sent her a link to a Russian website And when she opened the link up, she found some video footage of her and her husband, shall we say, quite intimate, that had been taken for their own kind of consumption, as it were, and it had been put on the Russian website. It could not be removed. It could not be removed. The husband had decided to put the images up there, and it's still up there now. That's the scary bit. And the idea that Kath kind of discusses is the trauma of this can be immediate, delayed, or retrospective. So if you're working with clients who've had this happen to them, the immediate trauma is seeing it, is someone saying, I don't know if you've seen this, but there you have it. The delay can be that people just don't believe it, and then they come to awareness of it, they're in denial. And retrospective is it's always there. It's a parable of our times. People have always been abusive, but now the technology allows them to be abusive in a kind of whole new way. The same really applies to children who've been groomed online. And just for some factual information, I was speaking to Kath the other day, and she was saying that the word grooming is a little bit of a kind of oxymoron, a contradiction in terms. Actually, people who come online to groom children don't even bother with the grooming. They just ask outright for what they want, and if they can't get what they want, they'll move on to the next person. It's literally a numbers game for these people. One of the difficulties, certainly with young people, is that for those young people who've sent images to abusers, is that those images are, again, not theirs. They're now in the public domain, and they can be sent to anybody. And in fact, I've known of young people who are frightened to go to school because they don't know who'd got the pictures on their phones. It's very, very traumatizing. And one of the interesting things that Kath mentions is about how she addresses mobile technology in the therapy room, making sure that things like cameras are blocked off on phones, or phones aren't even brought into the therapy room, because for young people, the kind of boundary between corporeal, which is our solid selves, and our internet related selves, there's no boundary. People are literally connected by devices, and certainly with things like Facebook Live, with FaceTime, with, Skype. There's just hundreds of ways that young people can communicate to the outside world, and the outside world can communicate with them. So cyber trauma, a theoretical framework that covers trauma which occurs through or from the medium of the online world, cyberspace. It's something that all therapists should be aware of. It's not the same, in my experience, as trauma that appears through a physical relationship. That is one form of trauma, but the not knowing, the not having the control over the images or content that someone else might have can be traumatic. It can be immediate, delayed, or retrospective. And I'll put some details in the handout and a link to Kath's site. So for those of you who are interested, and you should be, I think, go over there and have a look and see what she has to say about it.
Thank you as always, Rory. It's just fascinating stuff. And I remember when I first graduated, I went and did a certificate in online therapy because I saw that as the way forward. And so much of what you've discussed, we looked at, but you've gone really in depth and really niched down on that. And of course, a great handout that you can get on that, cyber trauma. And to get that, all you need to do is go to our website, which is counsellingtutor.com. That's our mother website. And just click on the top menu bar. It says podcast. Click on podcast. Go to episode 63. It's today's episode. All the show notes of what we've discussed today are there, links, references, and of course Rory's super duper handout that you can download and keep forever. And if you're a member of the Counselling Study Resource, well, that's already been added to the Handouts Vault, so you can get it in your Handouts Vault. And of course, if you're a Handouts Vault member, you can just pick that up in your Handouts Vault. It's already there waiting for you. And if you're listening to this and thinking, what is he talking about, Counselling Study Resource, and what is a Handouts Vault? Well, we speak more about that right at the end. We give a link of where you can go and have a look at that. But really, really good. So we're now moving on. talking about the moral compass, and I get this, and this is, again, it came in from our Facebook group. Can you share the actual comment that came in for us, Rory?
Yeah, so again, we're very grateful to Beverly Emma Swales.
Yes.
She writes, my question is on social media. I have friends who I have shared laughs and experience with, and I'm finding myself in a dilemma as I'm developing as a person, growing and changing. Some things I write about on social media really bother me, and my moral compass is screaming internally. I'm struggling to find acceptance around what they're saying. Oh, Beverly, how familiar? How familiar is this?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's just super familiar, and for me, it's a indication of the privilege of our work, because as we go on to work with other people and their difficulties, we really get an insight into the world that other people don't. We, to use a phrase from The Matrix, we take the red pill.
Yeah.
We go down the rabbit hole, and the world is not as we perceive it.
Oh, very, very, very much so. And our values can change. I know mine did. I remember my values changing, and I can so relate. There were certain people that I didn't want to spend time in their company anymore because I found them to be quite judgmental. And interesting looking back on that, because at the time, and it's about who you choose to spend your time with. They say that the 5 people you spend most time with is the sum of who you are. I don't know what the research is on that, but it is definitely a saying. And I found the people that I chose to spend my time with changed, but also looking back on that, I recognize I was on a journey of discovery, and I was learning new things, and my truths were being challenged, and my truths was changing, and I was becoming a different person. And other people were not on that journey with me. They're not going on that journey. You kind of leave them behind in a way, or they continue on their own journey. And it's interesting now, having been in practice for a few years, I look at it less so. I think that when I was experiencing all those changes, I was maybe in a way becoming judgmental myself of the people that didn't share the values I held. And I think I've mellowed a little bit on that. So it's really an interesting topic.
Yeah, and I'm with you, Ken. I went through this kind of a bit of a kind of sharp phase of kind of not being accepting of other people's unacceptance.
Yes.
If that makes sense. And now I just realised that I move in in a lot of the work I do. I move in different ways. The stories I've heard through the years from students, from clients, has made me realise that the world is not as a lot of people see it. And also I've become more accepting around a lot of people's prejudices are generated through fear.
Oh, yeah.
And the unknown. So, if I hear that someone's really kind of prejudiced, my first reaction is I wonder where the fear is.
Yeah.
I wonder where the fear is. And that, and sometimes if I'm not often in someone's company, I have to say, who's like that. But sometimes if you listen long enough to the narrative, they'll realise there's some kind of fear. And usually the fear is about not knowing. Just not knowing about someone. And when someone shares who they are, it's like, oh, I never knew that, and I never knew that either.
Yeah.
Then yeah. So
very, very much so. And I can relate with the not knowing is the one side. So you have a lack of information on something. So you maybe fill that information lack in with stories you've heard or things that may have been told to you by parents, and you make an impression and a truth based on other people's ideas rather than meeting someone and seeing how that is in the real. And another thing that can come up there is that we have something to protect, that we're protecting something, whatever that may be, and in our own self-protection, we kind of become closed. And I'm saying this, I'm busy making my way through a television program called I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. It plays in the UK, it goes out on ITV, and they basically take some celebrities, they put them in a jungle and they put cameras on them, so they get to live their life. But you do get to watch behaviors play out and how divisions in the tribe occur, and you can see, having some kind of understanding of the human condition, how people are reacting negatively to other people out of their own fears and insecurities. And it's really interesting to watch that play out.
Absolutely. And yeah, I was reading The Merchant of Venice the other day, or a little passage of it. Yeah. And, there's The Merchant of Venice is a Shakespeare play, and the narrative of it, the morality, because they're all morality tales, is of anti-Semitism. And there's a famous quote in there that says, tittle me, do I not laugh? Prick me, do I not bleed? Poison me, do I not die? In other words, they were saying that everybody is human, and they experience the same human things. Yeah. It's a great tale. But yes, and also congratulations, Beverly. If your moral compass is shifting, that means that something personally is happening for you. That's personal growth. There's no other way of describing that. And maybe it's something to own and just say, well, this is who I am now. I'm not the person yesterday, which is a good thing. It shows movement, personal growth.
It is, and it is great. And you're speaking about that in a positive light there, Rory. But I also recognise that there can be a negative side to that, specifically when those closest to you are the ones that you feel yourself growing away from. It may be work colleagues. It can even be a partner that you've been with for many years, and you find yourself kind of having different values and being drawn in a different direction. And it happens. And I remember the very first day of sitting in your class, Rory, because I don't think it's a secret that I was a student of yours at one time, Rory. I've certainly mentioned it enough times. Yeah. And I remember the very first class where you basically said, this course comes with a health warning.
Yes. Yes. Your world will change.
Yeah.
And, a few people at the beginning were like, I don't know about that. Yep. And at the end, I know my diploma course, like a lot of counselling courses, it was predominantly women. And I would think 50% left their partners at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, people leave jobs. I know I did. I left a career. Career, changed it, and made what could be considered by many as a rash decision. But my values had changed, and amassing pieces of paper in a bank account were no longer as important as actually making a difference in people's lives. And it was like a calling to me. And luckily, I had the support of my family at the time. But I can see where it can be difficult when you may not have that support. So I recognize it as a wonderful thing to grow, to feel your compass direction changing, to recognize that development in self. But I also recognize that it can sometimes be a painful thing to go through.
Absolutely. I'm going to share anyone listening who is one of my students will be going, he's at it again. I'm going to share our former students. I'm going to share a quote from the late Maya Angelou. She said, "Without courage, you cannot practice any other virtue with consistency."
Love it.
And I think that sometimes it takes enormous courage to say, actually, I'm not laughing at that racist or sexist joke. I'm not going to be going. It takes a lot of courage, but that courage then kind of filters through into who you are. And I don't think I could put it too strongly. All counsellors are courageous people because they're going out to work with people in great difficulty. Sometimes very underrated, the courage side of the work, but I think a lot of therapists are very courageous.
I agree with you, and that they're saying that not laughing with the group, that's really swimming against the tide. And you quoted Maya Angelou. I'm going to bring up Mahatma Gandhi here, and I'm going to say, be the change that you wish to see in the world. And that does take courage. It takes courage to go against the grain, to not laugh with the boys in the crowd. I'm using that as a saying because it comes from a Pink Floyd song. And as we come to the end of this really interesting topic, think about it some more, discuss it. It's a timeless topic. It will come up again and again on the podcast, on our blog. Get into our Facebook group and have a chat about that. If you're a member of our forum, either the Counsellors Cafe or the Counselling Study Resource Forum, go and have a chat about that in there as well. And I just can't help but notice as we come to the end of episode 63, Rory, that you were quoting The Merchant of Venice, and I was talking about watching I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here on telly, and I think that's why you're our academic director. So 63, we looked at patterns of relating within the counselling relationship. We looked at cyber trauma in theory with Rory, really good theory there, and then that moral compass change. And of course, it is the last episode for 2017, so thank you very much for lending us your ears for this year. And I look forward to seeing you in the brand new year of 2018 for exciting things to come. I know we've got a lot of exciting things planned, haven't we, Rory, for Counselling Tutor?
We have, and all will be revealed. Yeah. But until then, stay grounded, stay safe, and have a super break if you're having a break.
If you enjoy the topics and handouts here on the Counselling Tutor podcast, then you will love the Counselling Study Resource. CSR was built by myself, Ken, and Rory Lees-Oakes to give you the support you need during your counselling studies. So get access to the world's most comprehensive collection of resources aimed at supporting you in your journey to become a counsellor. Take the stress out of your studies by visiting counsellingtutor.com/CSR. That's counsellingtutor.com/CSR.
Thank you for listening to the Counselling Tutor Podcast. Find the show notes for this episode on our website at www.counsellingtutor.com.